This slideshow is about the fundamental attribution error. The attribution of attitudes, written and studied by Jones and Harris in 1967. This experiment was published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology. And here's a little bit about what it's about. This experiment was conducted over 3 experiments that were done at the Duke University. The purpose of these experiments were to help determine an individual's underlying true attitude of an individual after having heard a speech by that person. Below each image, there is a link which will take you to the citation for that image. Research question. Do we perceive information or people differently based on popular versus unpopular beliefs? And does that conviction of the person sharing those beliefs affect how we perceive that person or their belief? Truly, it's a very interesting topic. And so with this, we have the foundational hypothesis. When a person expresses an opinion that is more trendy or common, the attribution or reason for that attitude or belief will not be perceived by others as a product of personal choice. However, when an unpopular opinion is expressed, the action or response of others will vary based on their perception of both the opinion and the person's conviction. So both of those two things can play a role. So again, this was our foundational hypothesis. As we continue forward, there will be several more. Again, within this, there were 3 experiments conducted. So experiment 1 and the research method are going to be listed here. The hypothesis for experiment 1 was that there's a difference between pro-choice and no-choice means, which would be greater for hearing the pro-Castro speech than those hearing the anti-Castro speech. The primary task here was to estimate the true attitude of the person making the statement. And for the research method, we had 36 males and 15 female students. All these students were quote-unquote volunteers from the intro psychology course, although it was required that they participate in a study to receive course credit. Each subject was given a typed writing of the Castro's Cuba. The objective here was to determine if the writing was from an autobiography, a creative writing assignment, or if it was just an answer from a political science exam. Each participant then had to write a 200-word essay about Castro's Cuba. As for the results from experiment 1, well, the hypothesis was not confirmed. Attitude was found to play more of a role in a person's response than it was anticipated. Possible that subjects did not understand their task and wrote more about their personal beliefs rather than what they believed that the writer believed. I do have included here table 1 from that experiment, and again that citation is provided below as well. For experiment 2, we wanted to just take that step further. We wanted to know if the degree of choice makes a greater difference when the behavior has a low probability. So that was our hypothesis, that the degree of choice made a greater difference when the behavior had a lower probability. The primary task at hand, estimate the true attitude of the person making the statement. The research method here was, again, each subject was given a writing from the Castro's Cuba. It was presented as an essay, presented in the first draft of an opening statement for a college debate. So in the previous experiment number 1, it was given as one of 3 things. Here instead, all subjects were told the same information that it was given as an opening statement for a college debate. The topic of debate was resolve that Castro's Cuba is a legitimate member of the family of nations and that the United States should not interfere with the sovereign rights of another country. Xerox copies of the handwritten original were provided to subjects. In the first example, experiment 1, subjects were given typed copies of the Castro Cuba. So here they're given Xerox copies of the handwritten original. Subjects were also told that the experimenter was interested in their ability to judge the writer's beliefs and the writer's personality. Similar scale for results was used as what was used in experiment 1. There was some phrasing omitted, just some key words. And then, of course, there was a questionnaire added to this one as well. For this experiment, there were 97 subjects, both male and female, again from the intro psychology class, and they were all volunteers. However, again, they did have to volunteer for some research project in order to complete this class. Unlike experiment 1, we do not know the ratio of male versus female subjects for experiment 2. We do have experiment 2's results available. The mean values provide strong support for the hypothesis, and that's probably going to be pretty important for experiment 2. Again, the mean values provide a strong support for the hypothesis. Quoting, "This form of interaction is significant, leaking degree of correspondence, of interference, directly to the degree of choice." And so that can be shown below. Experiment 3 had two hypotheses. Hypothesis 1, quote unquote, "The maverick who chooses to differ with the assumed position of the community will be perceived to have a more correspondent attitude than one who chooses to stand with his reference group." And hypothesis 2, "There will be a higher correlation among subsets for mavericks than for knee-jerk liberals or knee-jerk racists. If Maverick is seen as anti-segregation, he will also be seen as liberal. If he is seen as pro-segregation, he will be seen as conservative." So there's two hypotheses there. Experiment 3, research method. The primary task, subjects were asked to determine the predictability of a person's attitude on various issues based on his attitude from another issue. The research method, it was designed with multiple purposes. We wanted to demonstrate that results were not due to speeches previously used. We wanted to stock arguments from others that were available for composing speech. And we wanted to vary the reference group with target person to manipulate the probability to express opinions in a certain direction. In this experiment, subjects were exposed to tape-recorded speeches that were either for or against segregation. They were delivered by either a Northerner or a Southerner. There were 125 male volunteers, all from the same Intro to Psychology course, fulfilling, again, a course requirement. And the subjects here did complete a questionnaire. Now, in this experiment 3, there were 0 female volunteers, and it was not noted as to why there were 0 female volunteers. For experiment 3, hypothesis 1, we have our results here. Data in regard to the Southerners appear to be not confirmed with the hypothesis, so it does not line up with our hypothesis. However, it is believed that that is due in part to the location of the subject's home state. They further found out that 57 Southerner and 43 Northern individuals partook in this study. And so shown here, we do have what those results correlated to, with Northern being 80.42 and Southern 70.07. The Southerners were more welcoming to segregation. That was an anticipated result. They expected that. Those who heard the anti-segregation speech, though, were more opposed to segregation than those who heard the pro-segregation speech. So those who heard the anti-segregation were more opposed to segregation. So that's noteworthy information. Moving on to hypothesis 2 results. Hypothesis 2 did receive some support. If you take note of table 7 here, you will see some italicized information. Anything italicized is showing support. In addition, we want to share that the Northern Choice Anti-NCA and the Southern Choice Pro-SCP provided higher correlations. Now, despite that, we are still struggling to put it all together. So further research on attitude structure is needed from this point forward. As an evaluation of the study, or our conclusion, we found that when major decisions about form and direction of behavior are made for the target person, his performance is still a powerful source of variation in the attribution results. And so what does that mean? That means that when we are making big decisions, our selves still has a play in that decision process. So we're not just going to look at the information that's being provided to us. The way that we inertly feel can still and is still expressed. Number 2, concludes that correspondence in attributing underlying attitudes account for exposed opinions is high when opinions are unexpected and expressed in a context of free choice. Attitudes account for exposed opinions when opinions are unexpected and expressed in a context of free choice. And I think that we can see that just watching any of our news channels as we grow these opinions and we have these ideas and we want to know why and what is going on in our current state of affairs. I think that that's something that we currently are seeing. And then finally, number 3, content and direction of opinions exert clear inference even when choice is drastically reduced. So content and direction of opinions exert clear inference even when choice is drastically reduced. So all of these things play a large